Ladies and gentlemen, will you please welcome one of our finest Brexiteer MPs in the House of Commons, and a very effective and diligent Minister of the Crown.
Thank you. I mean, what a welcome, and how great to be on a panel with John and Bill, colleagues in the House, who's been fighting for, and also yourself, of course, Barry, who's been fighting for decades for Brexit, and I think we're in sound company in this room with their views, and I was nodding away to everything you said, John. Now, ladies and gentlemen and friends, last time I spoke at the Bruges Group at conference was actually in here, in this very room, and it was during the time we was really having to fight for Brexit. Theresa May was Prime Minister, and hasn't a lot changed in the interim. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you agree, but I feel that we've got a fight on our hands yet again, but this time for freedom of speech. Now, did any of us in this room ever imagine that one day we'd be lambasted for saying what a woman is? Or that we think men shouldn't be competing against women in sports? We were told that social media platforms would encourage discourse. Yet too often they're used to silence one side of the conversation, which I've certainly found lots of times. I'm sure John, Bill, and everybody in this room have found that. Now we've got corporations deciding, in a political motivated fashion, what are acceptable opinions and what are not. Now, did you see that only last month, PayPal shut down the account of journalist Toby Young? It's crazy. He's the founder of the Free Speech Union. I just think the world has gone bonkers. Now, I'm proud to be here again, but let us not forget, for over 30 years the Bruges Group has been at the forefront of the fight for freedom. In an age where liberty is under challenge around the world, it remains important that we understand what our values are, why we hold them, and what it will mean for the next generation. Now, earlier this year I was honoured to be appointed as Minister for Skills, Higher Education and Further Education by Boris Johnson, and then by Prime Minister Liz Truss. Now, this brief is broad, and it puts me at the coalface of some of the key challenges in this country. Now, education should and must be at the heart of our Conservative agenda, in an area of public policy that has direct impact to everybody in the UK, regardless of age or upbringing. I previously worked in education, and I saw firsthand the opportunities it gives people, regardless of their background, their ethnicity. And learning a new skill set helps people open doors that were previously closed to them. Now, as my dearly departed dad used to say to me, it's not where you come from that matters, it's what you do in life that matters. This is why Conservatives cannot afford to abandon education to those who may wish to silence us. I'm a firm believer of the view that free speech must be a formative part of education, that it must serve as a foundation for education. Our schools must be bastions of freedom. Teachers must be impartial and not push left-wing agendas onto students. Our colleges and universities must be a forum for debate and discourse. They must be places in which ideas are challenged and not cancelled. Now, my ethos, this ethos is my driving force, and this is why I'm a meritocrat and not a feminist. Now, I don't believe in positive discrimination, but in a society where people are judged by their character, their ability, freedom of expression is an essential part of this. Now, this is why I'm delighted that in this autumn, I'm responsible in my brief for taking the freedom of speech bill through Parliament. Now, the freedom to speak one's mind and not to worry about approaching controversial subjects is an essential part of what makes society free. This is especially true in higher education, an area where this right should be unquestioned. In recent months, we've seen the no platforming campaigns aimed at rescinding invitations to guests in universities. We've seen reports of academics being afraid to espouse what we in this room would deem regular views. Now, we've seen trigger warnings on literary classics. Many universities and colleges have signed up to manifestos of left-wing groups. And we've seen a growing consensus among students that the places where they study have become less tolerant of different views. This is unacceptable, and it's an issue we must tackle. Now, the bill will help to address this issue, and rightly so. Now, the comments you made earlier about Boris, I completely agree with. I think what a wasted opportunity with that majority. Now, Boris said of this bill, freedom of speech is at the very core of our democracy. It is an absolute right that our great universities, the historic centres of free thinking and ideas, will now have their freedom protected and bolstered by legal protections. Our former Prime Minister was right. Universities should be a place where people go to have their views challenged. To be part of the forum of discussion and learn more about the different thought processes that people have, and this is not a controversial statement. Now, the bill aims to prioritise freedom of speech at our universities by strengthening the legal obligations towards this principle and helping to ensure that we can guarantee the concept of freedom of speech for students both now and in the future. Whilst the politically motivated campaigners within the higher education sector may oppose this bill, I take it as a sign that we're doing something right. Because how can anyone rational be against free speech? The government and I are determined to see this bill become law as soon as possible. But education is not the sole preserve of universities, and this is what we've lost sight of in recent years. A skilled modern economy competing on the global stage requires technical skills just as much as it needs graduates. Yet the current system would rather our young people get a degree in Harry Potter studies than the apprenticeship in construction. Now, it doesn't take magic powers to work out that this is wrong, which is why the government is committed to putting the broomstick to good use and carrying out a spring clean of low-quality courses. If a course isn't providing someone with a positive outcome, be a well-paid job, then it makes no sense why the government should be funding it, especially its taxpayers' money. We're injecting more flexibility in the funding system, and we are changing the landscape of how qualifications are funded and making it easier to access education, whatever stage in your life. Now, skills are a major part of my brief, and I'm determined to make sure that the skills we give our young people are fit for the future. In some cases, they're simply outgetting us at universities. They're being fed a diet of critical race theory, anti-British history, and sociological Marxism, which is why this government is determined to provide an alternative. Now, the introduction of T-levels will give students hands-on experience with industry leaders. Degree apprenticeships mean that people get stuck into real-life jobs while simultaneously studying. And we are launching the lifelong learning entitlement in 2025. And this is a definition of conservatism. It gives people the tools they need to plough ahead and make the most of their talents and drive the economy forward. After all, this is a country, let us not forget, that gave us the internet, the telephone, the television and the railways, and I'm very proud to be British. Now, we didn't do it all by having our brightest and best students sat in dusty seminars and discussing decolonisation, pronouns or patriarchy. Now, we did it through unleashing innovation, entrepreneurial spirit and through technical know-how. And this is the kind of system I want us to get back to. We're all excited about using our Brexit freedoms, I'm sure everybody in this room is, to deregulate modern industries and trade with emerging markets. But we need to make sure we have the skills to capitalise on these opportunities. You don't have to be in a lecture hall to learn something. And we have fantastic skills boot camps, which are 16-week courses that allow students to build up valuable sector-specific skills. Now, I recently visited one in Castleford for HGVs. And I witnessed the remarkable work that is training our next generation of logistic workers. I got to drive the truck as well. My dad was a trucker, and I drove it pretty much okay. And I told everybody afterwards how I only wrote my car off 3 weeks before. Now, it's at a police training centre I visited. I saw the hard work and the skill which is required to train thousands of our police officers that we're putting on the street. And at an animal welfare college, I was shown the academic opportunities available to those who do not want to go to university. It was like something out of a science fiction movie where they're training the veterinary nurses with virtual reality headsets. It was amazing. And I had to go as well and walked into a wall. Has anyone else tried to find it? Now, the point is that universities don't have a monopoly on providing good quality education. Conservatism recognises this, and my priority will be to ensure that everyone who is able to access training and skills which suits their particular talent. Now, as a government, we should be immensely proud of our accomplishments in education today, from setting up academies, and I'm very pleased that our Prime Minister Liz Truss is, wanting to push grammar schools again. That's a great move forward. We've introduced the T-levels, and we're promoting and expanding apprenticeships. We've fundamentally changed the nature of education since 2010, and we should feel proud as Conservatives. Now, I've outlined throughout this the problems that we continue to face that didn't exist a decade ago, like the challenging of freedom of speech. But we will not, we shall not, and we cannot take our foot off this accelerator. Thank you.